Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd during Enies Lobby, Gear 4th during Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island, and obviously the godlike Gear 5th in Wano are Luffy's most iconic transformations that have let him defeat incredibly powerful enemies like Rob Lucci, Katakuri, and even Yonko and Admiral level threats like Kaido and Kizaru. But the Egghead Island arc has also showed us that Luffy still needs to somehow get much stronger in order to actually be able to defeat the world government and claim the One Piece, who turn out that they are way stronger than we all actually thought. Meaning that, just like a car, he's gonna have to have at least one more gear before the series ends, with power way greater than anything we've ever seen from him before. But not only that, I do think that I might have figured out exactly what that power-up will be. And to do that, today I actually want to discuss a bunch of different options for Luffy's potential Gear 6 transformation, starting with a personal theory I've been personally wanting to talk about forever since we discovered that the Gum Gum fruit was actually a model of the human devil fruit type. It's time to talk about the insane and monstrous power available to exclusively the Straw Hat crew of the Rumble Balls. Now, as a quick reminder, these little crunchy snacks here are what let everyone's favorite doctor, Tony Chopper, square up with threats way out of his league, like Queen here. It's a special drug introduced all the way back in chapter 148, like way back. And basically, Rumble Balls allow Chopper to access incredible power early on in the series, but it's not until this formula gets refined twice in New World that we get to see the immense true hidden power of these Jawbreakers in action. And I actually don't believe that it was just for a simple minor Chopper power-up that Caesar Clown, out of all people, actually helped Chopper boost the power of these candies. Now, instead I actually think that the reason we see this power-up get amplified in Wano specifically alongside the introduction to Gear 5th is to show the incredible full power and potential of any human type devil fruit. And so my personal favorite theory for Gear 6 ever since we saw Luffy's awakening is that Luffy will utilize the Rumble Balls that only exist in his own crew to push past his own limits, creating a transformation befitting that of a god. A form that we can maybe call something like the Divine Beast Monster Point Nika. Okay, but what does it actually look like and what is the proof here? Well, for one, let's face it, the Nika fruit didn't have to be a human type devil fruit. It could have just been a different zone god type fruit. But instead, the implication here, at least to me personally, is that the human aspect of this devil fruit is hinting at greater power in the form of the base, hybrid, and full zone beast transformations. And so very much like all of the various forms that Chopper uses, like Horn Point, Brain Point, and Heavy Point, Luffy also utilizes a variety of different modes showcased in all of the various gears and their alternate moves as well. And so with that set in mind, we're seeing the true human fruit potential within these different gear shifts. So I would guess that a fully realized Gear 5th will probably be shown in new variations similar to Snake Man, Bounce Man, or Tank Man for Gear 4th. But I think that there's actually a real chance that we have already seen the awakened hybrid form of Luffy's devil fruit, the Gear 5th form that by now we all know and love so much. But since Emeth, the ancient robot from Egghead Island, says that Luffy looks just like Joy Boy in chapter 1122, there is still a chance that this Gear 5th transformation is just the fully awakened form of the Nika fruit, which means that there's only one way to push it further, which would be exactly the Rumble Ball. This medicine would allow Luffy to access the raw and monstrous power of the literal sun gods. And I think the anime actually has done a really great job pointing this out by making characters like Kaido and Lucci see Luffy's Gear 5th as a terrifying and demon-like creature, very different from the more comic and goofy form that we and Luffy's allies get to see. As you well know, not all gods are always benevolent, sometimes they are just full of wrath and evil, especially the supposed god that leads the devil. So what better way to highlight this than Monster Point, the original beast mode for human devil fruits in the story? And the more you think about it, I think it's also incredibly in line actually with Oda's writing teases, as we've seen a bunch of things laid out early on in the series manifest in a bunch of different ways. For example, the weather knots that we saw in Nami's timeskip arc actually somewhat returned to the story as Emeth unleashed a massive Haki knot in order to knock away the Gorosei and knock out all of the Marines. Vivi's entire character is now taking center stage stage again after decades of absence after Alabasta, as her ties to Lily will make her a key player in the endgame of the story as well. Meaning that now more than ever, it is the time to pay off on the most terrifying transformation in early One Piece, just with a different user. And on a quick side note, it actually also ties in really nicely with the idea I posted some time ago that Usopp may get a human type devil fruit model giant on Elbaf as well. Who knows, maybe the entire crew is just gonna be popping rumble balls like Choji from Naruto during that last fight there. And I mean, Oda himself didn't exactly ban performance enhancing drugs, he actually kind of loves them, especially if little old Chopper makes them for the crew. But of course, that's just one possible way that Oda could introduce a Gear 6. And some of the transformations I'm gonna talk about later are gonna be a lot more broken than this and even more divine. But now that I think of it though, there is actually another beast-like transformation that Joy Boy has ties to as well. One that I think could actually make a surprise appearance and something that would truly connect a very odd loose end in the story, which is the Mink tribe. Okay, let's look at Gear 5 here. What do you see? White wispy hair, red eyes, and an awakening that first happened during a full moon, creating one of the most iconic panels in the series at this point, the Nika moon pose. And you probably get where I'm going with this, but it's a form that's incredibly similar in appearance to yet another transformation a whole group of character uses as well, which is the Sulong form of the Mink tribe. And let's not beat around the bush here, these humanoid animals are so heavily tied to Joy Boy, I'm convinced they are all just pets of his that he infused with crazy haki or just something like that. I mean, come on, they live on Zunisha, the giant elephant who confirmed that Luffy and Joy Boy are connected through Gear 5th and the Drums of Liberation. They also have a road poneglyph in their protection, something that we do know tells Joy Boy's story, leads the way to Laugh Tale, and even was confirmed to be an active act of rebellion against Imu in chapter 1085, and also Zou, their home territory, has the Kozuki crest in the poneglyph room, and we do know that the Kozuki clan were the one who crafted the poneglyphs to begin with, securing that connection to Joy Boy as well. Not to mention that at the end of chapter 1122, Zou's massive pillars appear to be where Joy Boy and Emeth are having their conversation as well, if you look really closely here. And so I think that these ties to Joy Boy and the very similar design choices between the Gear 5th and Sulong lead me to think that we might actually see a sort of Sulong Luffy design appear as the base for Gear 6. Now, besides just being inspired by the coolest looking designs in all of One Piece, this Sulong style Gear 6 is way more animalistic, fitting a full zone transformation, and when you consider the fact that Chopper created a drug for the Minks to use Sulong at any time of the day, very similar to the Rumble Ball as seen by Bippo saving Law in chapter 1081, Sulong Luffy isn't really that far-stretched, I mean far-fetched. Alright, I did that one on purpose, but yeah, especially creating a new parallel like this between the Sun God and the Moon, interestingly. After all, real science shows us that moonlight is just a reflection of sunlight, so the Sulong form is technically accessed by a variation of sunlight. And who knows, maybe this will have actual ties to Luffy's full Nika powers as well. And on a little side note, the power steroids that were eaten by the fishmen on Fishman Island during that arc were also really closely in resemblance to Luffy's Gear 5th form and the Mink Sulong form as well. Okay, these were both pretty beastly options, a primal form of power, but that's of course not the only direction that a Gear 6 could go into. In fact, there's actually a lot more evidence pointing to the fact that the deity side of Nika and Joy Boy is actually the direction that Oda Sensei might be going with this. There have been a bunch of really phenomenal videos from creators like Joy Girl, Randy Troy, and even myself in the past connecting Luffy to his major inspiration, Sun Wukong. Cloud riding technology, stretchy arms, and the idea that Joy Boy was actually a monkey mink. There's just so many great connections to the greatest tale ever told, which is the journey to the west. But it's not just that. We've also seen, with the addition of Luffy's new ultimate move, the Bajrangan, I'm never sure really how to pronounce that one, Bajrangan, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Byrangan. That he's actually also taking inspiration from the original monkey god, Manuman, as well. well. And obviously Luffy does echo a bunch of main themes and character arcs from these two gods, liberating the world, fighting the actual gods, etc. So that's it, right? Luffy's gonna get some type of monkey god form. That's what I'm getting at. No, you got faked out by me here. Okay, well, that's a totally reasonable and probably likely outcome. I think that there's actually yet another character that has even greater ties to the world building of One Piece that Oda pulls from as well. A divine being that has been teased and hinted at being connected to Luffy for a long time. A divine being that has been teased and hinted at being connected to Luffy, Joy Boy, and even Nika, and shares a very similar story arc to the Monkey Kings as well. Plus, it's a concept that would finally explain why the Lunarians, King's mysterious sky rays, seem to be from outer space according to Enel's cover story. Also, white hair, and obviously they showcase their connection to Joy Boy as well. Plus, that little flame on their back is, in my opinion, the dead giveaway for the connection in this case as well. You see, to me, the evidence is pointing in the direction at Luffy taking direct inspiration from the Lightbringer, the fallen angel, and the devil himself, Lucifer. Busting out my rusty middle school Latin knowledge, Lucifer literally being the light bringer. That is literally what Lucifer means. Now, I will quickly run back my favorite list of things that Oda clearly wants everyone to connect to the Bible and Abrahamic religious stories. I'm gonna try and make this quick. The celestial dragons living in the Holy Land, all of the clans being called saints with European-style names and weapons, the Adam and Eve tree, the tree of knowledge, the fruit of the devil, forbidden fruit, Kuma's Bible, and just so many other things as well. And to me, all of these ties are what point to Luffy leading a rebellion on the Holy Land as the fallen sun god. The D clan being the clan of devils that everyone hates makes a lot of sense as well if Nika was actually a fallen angel way before things, coming down from space with the ancient weapons, a concept that I do discuss a bunch in a lot of detail in the two-part Bing Sake and Joy Boy plan theories I published that just keeps getting validated with every new lore drop that we get in the story, so check those out after this video if you're really interested. And let's freaking go, because I mean, I don't mind being wrong about theories, that's like 99% the case, but it is kind of nice being right occasionally at least. You know, I can do all of the what ifs and crazy ranking videos, but an accurate theory just always hits a little bit different to me, you know? I don't know, if maybe that's just me. Now, if the full power of the Nika fruit gives Luffy the power of the sun, just like the fallen angel Lucifer had as the Lightbringer, it makes a bunch of sense in my opinion. And it would also explain why the Lunarians, a sky race with clear design themes connecting them to Lucifer as well, or maybe Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII, you know, the black wings, the former angels tossed out of the Holy Land, aka Heaven thing, like this idea would connect heavily with Joy Boy being a Lunarian instead of a mink or a giant or buccaneer, and with the silhouette showing Joy Boy as a lot smaller, the giant idea is basically already losing a lot of steam at this point, I think. We do know that there are people worshipping the devil in the One Piece world, from Brook's little adventure during the time skip, plus Kuma's biblical worship of Nika connects even more heavy here, as his Christian Bible elements create a great sense of irony if his god is actually the literal devil from the Bible. And I mean, it does make a lot of sense, as the celestial dragons and Emu are being framed as the main big villains of this story. The celestial dragons, of course, being the literal gods of this world. But honestly, even that might not be the clearest and best answer, because there is no doubt to me that the most likely outcome is that Gear 6 will embrace a lot of the things that were actually revealed in Egghead Island and tie back into the story in a bunch of really important ways. I'm of course talking about the idea that Luffy's final transformation will involve him consuming, activating, or literally becoming the eternal flame that Dr. Vegapunk has tried to recreate with his mother flame. Here's what we know. The eternal flame is hinted at as far back as the cover story of chapter 472, where it does seem to be depicted among the sky races in the Enel space cover story here. It's a massive massive plot thread in Egghead Island and is shown to be the fuel source that allowed Uranus to delete Lulusia Kingdom of the entire map. And we actually do know that Joy Boy is tied into these things from the Lunarian worship of him and the poneglyphs connected to races and locations affiliated with the ancient weapons like Wano or Fishman Islands. Not only that, but they also literally describe their powers and locations. Even if randomly halfway throughout the story, Pluton then suddenly just happens to be in Wano instead of Alabasta, I'm onto you, Oda. I do know that you originally thought that the series was gonna end way earlier and was way shorter, and you just ended up moving everything back. I'll expose you for that soon enough, but the plan was definitely there without any doubts. But regardless of Oda's elite level plot manipulation, the biggest clue to me here is that the ancient technology like Emeth does resonate with the sound of Luffy's heartbeats. Those drums do be really liberating, let me tell you that. It has the power to wake up and literally activate ancient tech based on his very presence. Now, Vegapunk modeling his Mother Flame based on the power source that he knows powered this ancient tech but he cannot fully recreate, to me showcases that Joy Boy and the Nika form tie into this power source in some way or capacity. And these key reveals, on top of all of the flame-based powers like Red Hawk and Red Rock, really make me believe that Luffy's final form may actually be the Eternal Flame Sun God form. For starters, we've just got so many silly tie-ins to Luffy, Joy Boy, and Nika, it's just pretty obvious to me at this point. Think about it. His ship is the Thousand Sunny. All of the races that worship Joy Boy have clear sun iconography in their logos, like the Kozuki, the Tontada, and the Sun Pirates. Let's also not forget that the original title for this entire series and the very first chapter of the story is called Romance Dawn. You know, the first phase of the sun rising and the moment that we meet Luffy, the next sun god. In other words, a final form based around the eternal flame concept is pretty much on brand with everything we've seen in the story surrounding Luffy and co. And if that's the case, then a bunch of the teases and hints with Ace being the false failed attempt at Joy Boy makes a lot of sense too, I think. Now, I've talked about this many times, but he was clearly being set up to get the Nika fruit originally, or at least all of the evidence around Roger's will and Shanks and Whitebeard's actions point to exactly that conclusion. And ironically enough, he actually ended up getting the flame fruit instead. So what if this was the actual piece of foreshadowing here that pointed to Luffy's final form as well? Ace's fire being just a taste of what the actual sun god can really do, and by a fun twist of fate, if Ace didn't get this fruit in the grand scheme of things, Luffy would have never even realized he had access to raw firepower himself. As you probably know, Red Hawk literally draws its design and power from his brother Ace, the perfect symbolism of the man who was supposed to be the sun god, paving the path for the actual next sun god. Either that, or maybe it's actually somehow necessary to combine the sun god fruit with the flame fruit to access this power source, which is why Sabo, a character so heavily connected to Imu, the Gorosei, and to Luffy, has now the flame fruit, question mark. Luffy's brother might just be the one to literally carry the torch, handing Luffy the godlike form that he needs in order to activate the ancient weapons in order to defeat Imu. Or who knows, maybe it's none of these options. Maybe Luffy's hybrid form is actually turning into an eco-friendly car and shifting into 6th gear to drive super fast over his opponents. Powered by solar power and gasoline, it's gonna be the ultimate hybrid zone form, the Chevy Volt. that would be a turn of events that I guess nobody would see coming. All jokes aside, I think some of these are really solid theories, and regardless of if it's any of these specific forms or something completely different, some completely new power form like Super Saiyan Luffy or Monkey D. Wukong, all I know is that Luffy is going to seriously need a real 6th gear in order to defeat the Gorosei, Blackbeard, and even Imu by the end of One Piece. Now, a lot of the things that I discussed in this video so far are teased and heavily set up during the Egghead Island arc, an arc that just dropped so much lore, dropped so many new cool characters and concepts, and revealed a whole new reality about the One Piece world with some of the hypest and most crazy reveals and moments in all of post-skip One Piece so far. And if you're interested in seeing a complete 1-hour deep dive into this arc with all its its themes, best moments, and so on and so forth, you can check out my big analysis video of that right below here. And otherwise, as always, a huge thank you to all our Patreons who really support what we do here and make this possible. If you're also interested in supporting what we're doing here and getting access to some really cool perks, go over there and check it out. For example, we just dropped the first bonus video content for the month, which you can have a quick preview right here.